Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to continue with some more of the beautiful autumn leaves. I have a selection of leaves that I've collected from the lawn, and I'm going to show you today how you can combine both stamping with watercolor. It's as easy as can be, and you can get terrific results. So let's get started. So here are a few leaves that I collected, and I actually collected these yesterday. And what I did was I put them in my stamp and emboss machine to flatten them out, but I think what happened was that it crushed them, and so they lost some of their color. They're still pretty colorful, but they are more subdued than they were. But that's okay because we're going to jazz them up with some paint. Alright, and then the stamp set that I'm going to be using is called Gather Together, and it has this nice maple leaf here. And it also has a nice sentiment. I'm going to be using Wishing You Well. And I've got another stamp set called Beautiful Autumn, and this one has a little maple leaf that I might use too. So I've got my very vanilla card base, and this is just a tent card opening from the top, and this measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have a mat cut out of Cajun Craze cardstock, and this measures 4 by 5 1/4, so that's going to give us a little bit of a reveal to the card base below, which gives us a nice border. And then I have some watercolor paper, and this is just torn down roughly to size, so it's approximately 3 7/8 by 5. And for my paints, I just have red, yellow, and blue, so there they are. And I'm using a sable brush. This is a Winsor & Newton Series 7, number 7. I've got a couple of water containers off to the side here and a damp sponge. And I've got a paper towel. And that's all you need. You don't need anything else besides that. Well, maybe a pencil if you want to do some sketching ahead of time, but today I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to just get started. And I'm mixing up some yellow and red together to get a nice sort of a peachy orange. I'm just checking to make sure that we're live here, and it says I am on the camera. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it. Okay, so just working loosely, I'm going to make a, oops. I'm going to make a maple leaf shape, and I'm going to have it, let's see. I'm looking at this one. And you're just trying to capture the spirit of the thing. This does not have to be exact. We're just going for an approximation. Here we go. And I'm going to just add a little more red while it's still damp. And then we can add another one. So here's a yellow. I'm just going to let them overlap a little and blend into one another. Okay, so that's a start. And I'm going to take a mixture and just make a kind of a neutral tone and just use that as a background here and there. I want to get this darker leaf. So basically it's a little collage of various colored leaves. I can zoom you in a little bit so you can see better. There we go. And I'll just keep adding some of these leaf shapes until I feel like I've covered as much of the surface of the card as I like. Okay, so I'm happy with this. So this is just a little wash of color on the card, and I'm just going to soften these ends and let them blend away. There we go. I'll add a little more up here. Okay. I think we're just about there. So there's a very soft, kind of a loose little autumnal background. Okay? And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this aside to dry. And then I have another piece of watercolor paper here. And I'm going to use my Cajun Craze ink. And I'm just going to take my maple leaf stamp and I'm just going to stamp that like so. And now I'm going to paint this. Now these inks are water-based inks. And so they will bleed a little bit when you wet them, and that's okay. That's what we want them to do. So I'm going to start by just getting some color on there. And I'm painting very lightly, not a lot of water. I'm going to add a little more yellow. Now a lot of the color that you see here is actually coming from the ink itself, and it works very nicely with the watercolor. You can also paint with the ink itself, which I've done many times in past videos. But now I'm increasing some of the color near the base of the leaf, and I'm going to add some of this darker reddish tone on the points. Okay, very simple. You can do this, folks. It's very easy, and you can get a very nice result. Now, coming right up, I have a watercolor class that you may be interested in. You can go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and go to the area on the website that says Notes and join my mailing list to receive notes from Dandelion Cottage each month, and that will tell you all about the upcoming classes that I have both in watercolor and in paper crafting. And I also have some Zoom events coming up as well, which are a lot of fun. And we do stamping and play bingo and laugh and have a lot of fun with our friends. So here we go. Here's our little leaf. We're just about done. I'm just going to blend those colors a little bit better. I also have a watercolor card of the month club where you can subscribe for 6 months, and over the course of that time you will learn how to paint 6 different subjects. And I'm starting with autumn leaves in November, and then in December we're going to do holly. And then you can use this knowledge you have of how to paint these different things to make note cards, boxes, decorate Christmas tags with the holly, all sorts of things. So there'll be plenty of ideas. Okay, so there's my maple leaf. And I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm going to snip this out. Now I could use a die because there is a die to match this. I'll show you what that looks like. So with this set gathered together, you can also get these dies. And this leaf comes with this great big maple leaf die, so that you could just cut that out. Maybe I'll show it to you. I'll show you how to do that. This is going to be a little more than a watercolor video today. Here's my stamp and emboss machine, and it kind of looks like a toaster with a crank on it. So here's the side of it. The other side's just the same, and then it's got this handle, and you just put down these two wings and you put your cutting plates in there. And here's my maple leaf. And I'm taking the die and I'm just going to put that right where I want it. And I'm just being careful that I get the stem in there because I don't want to lose my stem. Okay, and then I put a second plate on top of that and just roll it through. It's very simple. And just pop that out, and there's my beautiful watercolored die cut. Now, I don't want these edges to be so white. See, that just looks a little bit too raw to me. So I'm going to color the edges. And for that, I'm going to go back to my Cajun Craze water-based ink. And I have a sponge here. And all of these materials will be listed after I do the video. I'll get all the numbers for you together. And all I'm doing now is just gently kind of flicking the sponge on all the edges just to knock down some of that white so it looks a little more finished. Now my leaf is still pretty damp, so it's bending a little bit as I do this, and that's actually pretty nice because I want this to have a little bit of dimension when I put it on the card. Here we go. Okay, and I can even take, if I wanted to take it a step further, I can take some of my watercolor paint and do the same thing just by running my brush around the edges and getting into some of those little corners. There we go. And that's just staining the paper beautifully. Okay, so I'm going to clean up my mess. And I'm just wiping my fingers down a little bit, making sure I don't have any ink or paint on me. Missed a couple of spots there. There we go. I'm quite happy with that. Just adding a little more yellow. There. Okay. So my leaf is done. And I'm just going to pick that up and move this to the side. Here's my card. So I want to put a sentiment on the inside, so I'm going back to my Cajun Craze ink, and I have this one that says wishing you well, and I want to make sure I get this right side up. I'm going to put that on the inside. Okay. And it has a very fun kind of a script to it, which I like very much. And then I'm going to take this tiny little maple leaf, and I'm just going to put a little maple leaf in the corner. And since I have it out, I'm going to grab my envelope, and this is a matching envelope to the card base. This is called Very Vanilla, and I'm going to take my maple leaf again and put it right in the middle of the back flap. Okay. Oh, you know what? I have this scrap of watercolor paper. It's kind of a long, skinny one. I think I'm going to use that for a sentiment as well, so that nothing goes to waste. So I'm going to take my ink again, and this time I have a long, thin sentiment. It says, "Have a beautiful day." Get some ink on there. And I'll put it over on this side. See if I can get this straight. I'm just letting the ink transfer into the paper. Here we go. So there's a nice strip. I'm going to tear the end off. Just tear it down to size. And I think I'll snip a couple of little notches in there so I can wrap some twine around it. Okay, so just like that. I love using this linen thread for all sorts of reasons, but I particularly like it with these fall foliage cards. I really like the way it works with them. So I'm just wrapping that a couple of times around, and I'll tie that in a knot. Get that over. And let's see if I can tie a bow today. Not every day is a good bow day. Today might might, well, it's kind of a bow. Let's fix that up a little bit. There we go. All right, snip the ends. Okay, so now I think we have all of our pieces, and all we have to do now is do a little bit of gluing. So I'm going to take my card base here, make sure that that's right side up, and here's my mat with my watercolor background. I'm using the multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm just going to run a line of that around the edge and a little bit in the middle, and I'll set that onto my mat. And what's really nice about this is that the mat is also Cajun Craze, which is the same color as the ink, and I think it just looks really pretty with these autumn colors, and everything matches very nicely. And I'm just giving that a good burnish with my bone folder. There it is. So there's the original wash that I did, and I will do the same thing and get that lined up on the cover of my card. There we go. Now that would be pretty just as it is, but we've got our beautiful leaf here that we painted, that we stamped and then painted. Now this is still a little bit damp, so I'm not going to be able, well, I want to use, so here's the thing, if I was just going to attach it with the multi-purpose glue, it would be fine. But I want to use a dimensional because I want it to pop up from the surface a little bit, and the dimensionals will not adhere where the paper is damp, so I'm going to have to hold off on that. But I can give you an idea of what the finished card will look like. I'm going to take this sentiment and give this a little bit of a wave. So I'm going to go one way and then the other. Okay, so it looks something like that. And I will place this when it's dry down here, and I will post a picture of the finished card after it's dry. So that's going to go like that, and I may decide to put a couple of the champagne rhinestones on there as well. So there is a really nice way that you can combine your watercolors with your stamping and get a really nice effect. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to Notes so I can send you a schedule of all of the upcoming classes that I have, including the watercolor note card class, which will be going into painting leaves in more depth. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay well, stay creative, and I will see you next time.